Today's topic is on photographer's right. Now, I'm going to say this right off the bat. You need to go and dig, depending on the country you live in, maybe even down to the state, what your rights are as far as being a photographer when you're out in the public. I am not a lawyer. If you ever find yourself in a situation where I'm representing you, you are in a lot of trouble. That being said, you have rights as a photographer, and the topic for today is the photographer's right. So let's find out what rights you do have in the United States. Once again, if you live in a different country, check. These are things you need to know before you go out into the public and start taking photographs. Let's get to it. All right, let's discuss what your rights are when you go out and shoot your photography shoots or your videography. Let's start with, wait a minute, I'm a little uncomfortable. Yeah, that's a lot better. I feel a lot more comfortable now. So let's talk about the rights that you have as far as a photographer. You have the same rights that everybody else has. You have the right to freedom of speech, and you using your camera is your way of exercising that right or showing your freedom of speech. Where the problems come in initially is most people in general really don't know what the laws are. And you may find yourself in a situation where you're completely in the right, but the person or people really don't understand how the laws work. So we're going to discuss a couple of topics that should be able to help you when you go out to do your photography. By definition, you are allowed to take pictures of anything in public. That is, anything in plain view out in the public sector. Now, I'm going to do one of these things where I'm going to say something and then turn around and have exclusions to what I just said. You can do this. According to the law, anything in plain view out in the public sector, you can take photographs of. But there are things that you really shouldn't, and you can't. Military bases, you don't want to be standing outside the fence of a military base taking pictures. Don't do that. That's not something you're supposed to do. Even if you are within your rights and something is in plain view, they have a term that is called improper photography. And you may be doing something that someone considers improper. And under that classification, you can get into trouble. So don't do things like that. Where people get confused a lot is the fact that when you're in your home, you have privacy there. But once you've left your home, once you've opened that door and walked out and gotten out into the public, you've basically given up your right to privacy. That's why paparazzis, when they see a celebrity outside of their home, outside of their compound, outside of their area, they dive on them and try to get their photographs, because once they've left their home, they've given up their right to privacy, and that's why the paparazzis do what they do. There are many places, and we're basically talking about in the United States, that you specifically cannot do photographs. Places that are considered secured. Secured places are like courthouses, hospitals, airports. You can take pictures of them from the outside, but you're really not supposed to be taking pictures inside. Don't try to do that. There are private properties, properties that are owned by banks and malls and corporations that may have this whole area that is incorporated, and they own it. It may be restaurants and stores and things like this, but it's all owned by a specific corporation. They can have their own rules about whether you can use a camera in those situations. And they are within their rights to tell you, no, you can't. If you do take a picture and someone comes up to you and says something along the lines of, I want you to delete that picture, and you're perfectly within your rights, you are within your scope of being where you were and everything's okay, but they just want you to delete the photograph, you don't have to delete your photograph. You can delete your photograph if they have a court order or if they have an arrest order, then I would reconsider about deleting that photograph. But without those two things, you really, really don't have to delete your photograph. Now, here's another topic that we need to kind of get into, at least for a little bit. If there's any situation that comes up and it's easily diffused by you just saying, okay, I was doing this, I was doing that, if you don't want me here, if it's really not important that you get that shot in particular and can go someplace else and get another shot, you know, equal or even better than that, just leave. There are time and a place for everything. So that may not be the time or the place to cause an escalated condition that you could easily have walked away from. Now, if somebody tries to keep you in a particular place, like, no, you stay right here, I'm calling the police, or they try to detain you in any way, now they're open to a civil suit. People can't stop you from going someplace. It is a form of kidnapping. If they put their hands on you, try to get as much information as you can. Normally they're in a exaggerated emotional state at this point, and maybe they'll give you their name. Maybe they'll give you where they work. Maybe they'll give you information that they normally, if they were in their clear minds, wouldn't give you. Get that information because it can be helpful to you later on. There are all kinds of different times where videography and photography can get you into situations. Here's one that I find that comes up a lot when you're doing this type of photography. Most of the time, if I'm going to have a problem with someone while doing some photography, it's concerning this guy, a drone. People just don't understand what can and can't be done when you have a drone. And you need to understand what can and can't be done when you have a drone. People have the idea that they not only own their property, but they own the sidewalk and they own the airspace above their home. Well, you really don't own the sidewalk. But if somebody gives you a problem because you're taking some photography there, get off the sidewalk. But as far as the airspace above their home, they don't own that. Airports have different levels of airspace above the airport that you cannot fly a drone. State parks a lot of times will not allow you to fly a drone. There are situations where particular individuals may have some airspace around their home you cannot fly. There is a variety of places that you can't fly a drone. Now, as far as this drone, it's what they call geo-block, which means if you're in one of those areas that it's not allowed to fly, it literally will not take off. So one of my rebukes to people, if they come up and say something to me while I'm flying the drone, is the fact that that is a geo-lock drone, which means it will not fly in places it is not allowed to fly, and it's flying, so it's allowed. Now, if you're flying your drone and someone comes up and starts talking to you and say, hey, I'm talking to you, you need to stop what you're doing. You just say, hey, I'm sorry right now. I have to visually keep track of where this drone is. When I bring it back and I set it down, we will have a discussion and I'll tell you why I can do what I'm doing. Something else that'll also help you in that situation is to have your 107A FAA drone license. This is a certification that basically gives people the idea and the knowledge that you know what you're doing and you know what you can and can't do. Have this with you anytime you are flying your drone. It is very, very helpful. Something else you should have with you. If you have a lanyard, such as this one, as you can see, I have my company card in it, but in the back, I have this document that is all folded up inside this lanyard, and it is the photographer's right, which is the topic of what this video is. And you can unfold this thing, and it has a lot of information in there concerning the laws of things that you can and can't do as a photographer. And so you'll have the answer right there. I'm going to leave a link to this document. I suggest you look at it, maybe print it up, do what I do, carry it with you, and I will put it in the comments so that you can look at it. And there's a lot of information in there. It is very, very helpful. So thank you for watching this video, and please understand this. I just covered a couple of topics. There is a huge amount of information about what you can and can't do with your photographs, when you might need a model's release. There is a lot of information, and you need to take the time and find these things so you know when you need them and when you don't need them. If you're going to get into real estate photography, there is a whole bunch of legalities that are involved if you're going to do your real estate photography the correct way. Well, I hope you found this information helpful, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe, like, or share this channel. It will help me out. And once again, thank you. If you have any ideas or comments, leave them in the comment section, and I will answer them either immediately. No, I'm not going to answer them immediately. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can, and or make a video about it. Once again, thank you for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day.